And now for our last speaker for today, we have Defi Nikola. If you don't know him, he's doing the same topic for 3 years now, and I bet he refreshed it to catch on the latest developments in DeFi. So Nikola, tell us what's new.
All right. First of all, thank you for staying up till the final talk of the day, and yeah, welcome to Belgrade. Hope you're having a great time so far, and hope that you're gonna enjoy this talk as well. My name is Nikola. I'm coming from a Blockanalitica team behind risk team behind Maker, and DAI stablecoin, now also USDS. And today we're basically going to talk about latest developments in DeFi. As told during the introduction, this is actually the topic I've been covering for the last 3 years. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to actually compare the agenda from 24 and 23, which kind of can bring an insight of how at what pace this whole industry is moving. So yeah, today is basically going to be like a comprehensive overview of like the latest developing trends in the DeFi space. On this year's agenda, we're going to cover new protocol iterations. This was also the topic last year, as you can see, but here we're going to focus on the protocols that are relatively new, coming in the last during the last year. But yeah, we're also going to mention some that were mentioned also last year, but may not be launched. Then we're going to head to the DeFi lending innovations, so to put a bit focus on lending protocols and DeFi lending space. Then we're going to move to how basically yield products have evolved in DeFi recently. And then we're going to head to a dashboard that we actually at Blockanalitica are developing. It's a stablecoin dashboard covering all major DeFi lending protocols on mainnet. And as the last topic, we are going to cover privacy in Ethereum, which I think has unfortunately been, let's say, sidelined or under-discussed topic recently, and this is my attempt to bring it up to the discussions on events like this, like this kind of conferences and community meetups. We're going to briefly go through a recent privacy project on Ethereum called Privacy Pools. It's relatively small as well, but yeah, it brings some new features on top of the well-known Tornado Cash. And then I would like just to wrap up by mentioning DeFi tools you may consider using nowadays while wandering through DeFi. Okay, so new protocol iterations. Let's start with the one coming from the Instadub team. It's called Fluid, and it's basically a new lending protocol that combines lending and the decentralized exchange. They do it by something called smart collateral and smart debt. Now, let's start first with the smart collateral side. So basically, let's say you as a user want to deposit some collateral to a lending protocol, and you basically say, okay, I don't care if this collateral is, for example, in Wrap BTC or Coinbase BTC. And what Fluid does is basically leverages that fact by using a pair of tokens as collateral, and then using it as a trading pair. So that basically enables you as a depositor of collateral to earn trading fees on top of the vanilla lending APR you can now earn on, let's say, Aave or Compound or protocols like that. So let's go through a simple example. Let's say I put one Wrap BTC in Fluid. and then a trader comes that wants, let's say I put 10 rep BTC in Fluid, and then a trader comes who wants to swap one Coinbase BTC for one rep BTC. This is done in a, familiar fashion, let's say Uniswap-like fashion. So now my collateral composition is changed from being 100% in rep BTC to having 9 rep BTC and 1 Coinbase BTC, and that is fine. That is fine by me, right? And in return, I kind of get the swap fee from each trader, of course. So the similar mechanism can be applied to the debt side as well. It's called smart debt, and it's kind of a bit more interesting because you can, again, utilize your debt as a trading liquidity, which is kind of cool. But the underlying principle is the same in a sense that a user can say, okay, I don't really care if my debt is in, let's say, USDC or USDT, and the protocol basically leverages that by using that debt in a form of token pair as a trading liquidity. But let's say, the protocol flow of actions is a bit different than from the collateral side. So let's say I generate USDC debt, right? I get it on my wallet and get to use it however I want in DeFi. And then a trader comes who wants to swap USDT for USDC. What the protocol does under the hood is basically it uses the trader comes and wants to swap one USDC for USDT, and then the protocol basically uses the USDC to pay back my debt, and then generates new debt in USDT and get it back to the trader, minus, of course, the swap fee. So yeah, from the UX perspective, as a borrower, you may end up needing to pay your debt in like some proportion of USDC and USDT. So not 100% in USDC. But yeah, in the meantime, you are earning trading fees, which can effectively lower your borrowing rate. But yeah, it's again, from the UX perspective, this can be solved like one step before you actually pay back debt by swapping everything to USDC and then paying it back in USDC fully. Then we, of course, have Liquidity V2. It was already discussed last year here, but has not been launched. Now it's launched and actually relaunched. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the presentation, feel free to scan those QR codes. Those are meant to provide some additional information if you're interested in reading more about the protocols and the recent developments we are going to cover today, because it's impossible to cover everything in 20 minutes. Then we got Euler V2, a new very modular version of lending protocol, alongside with Euler Swap, which has been announced recently. Euler Swap is very similar to Fluid DEX, which we just explained. They're basically keeping all of the liquidity in Euler vaults and then using it as a just-in-time liquidity for trading on Euler Swap. It's actually built on top of Uniswap v4. And of course, Aave v4, it was introduced also last year. It's not still launched, but yeah, some very interesting features are coming up. So yeah, feel free to read more about it as well. When it comes to DeFi lending specifically, there are some of the things that I would say, like in my opinion, are expected to be implemented in newer versions of DeFi lending. The first one being separating LPs into the tranches, the junior and the senior tranche. Now, this is actually a very popular thing in TradFi, right? And this has not been implemented so far in DeFi lending protocols. It actually has been tried, but yeah, in my opinion, I think the industry was too immature at the time. So yeah, we'll see if this will work this time. My assumption would be that it would. We'll speak more about this at the next slide. Next up, risk premiums. This is actually also something already available in TradFi, but not yet to be implemented, let's say, on a smart contract level. The mechanism is basically you pay higher borrow rate for borrowing against a riskier collateral, right? So it kind of makes sense, and I think this is actually going to be introduced in Aave v4. Then fixed borrow rates. So currently we have fixed yield thanks to Pendle and some other protocols, and those are based on maturity, right? You have expiry date, and then you need to roll over if you wanna keep like this expected, like predictable yield. So I think this is the next thing we're probably going to see very soon, that those are fixed borrowing rates. My assumption would it be that those are also going to be maturity based with kind of automatic rollovers. Next up, composite oracles. This is actually risk management improvement that has been somewhat adopted so far among DeFi lending protocols, but I think it should be it should experience mass adoption because it's effectively like making lending and borrowing in DeFi significantly more secure. So let's give it a few examples. What protocols can implement is basically upper bounds for stablecoins. So let's say, most of the DeFi lending protocols are currently pricing the stablecoins, which are the most borrowed assets, within the protocol by market price. And this actually, let's say if for some reason some of the stablecoins price goes above $1, you can have those highly leveraged positions being liquidated, due to their depth increase. And this is something that can prevent that. So the upper bounds for stablecoins or LSTs, then redemption or exchange rate with market fallbacks. For example, you can use exchange rate for stake teeth and then use a fallback to a market price based on some threshold. For example, a deviation between the exchange rate and the market price, because you don't want to use exchange rate permanently if the crash is real, if it's not temporary, right? You want to avoid bad debt and like this excessive borrowing. Then, of course, different provider fallbacks. Let's say you want to use Chainlink as your primary oracle, and then, for example, Redstone as a fallback oracle or time-weighted average price. Then medians between various providers of oracles. This is actually something, if I'm not mistaken, that Sparkland is currently using, and even some custom feeds for specific purposes. Now, of course, this would be a new code and you need to audit it, but yeah, if it fits the purpose, is highly advised to use it. We, for example, at Blockanalitica did a custom oracle on Base on a Morpho market for the Lombard BTC, so it's LBTC. We used proof of reserve feed from Redstone and combined it with a market rate, and of course had a threshold being certain deviation between those two, and then made it aggregatable so we can adjust the threshold based on market conditions, of course. The custom feeds do not have to be, of course, developed by you or your team. Those, for a good example of that is Pendle, developing linear discount oracle for PT tokens that are now massively used throughout DeFi as collateral, which is a pretty cool example of how you can cleverly price assets within your protocol and thus create this create more capital efficient environment, right? So basically, those PT tokens are going up to the level of 1, and then basically you can price them similarly, so capital efficiency grows. Yeah, then I want to talk more about the yield products, which I think is a very interesting thing because the segregation of risk-reward as a product has been tried previously in DeFi and has not, to be honest, seen much adoption. But now we're seeing again this wave of sort of dividing the higher risk and lower risk yield, like the trenching process. A good example of that is the proposed updated version of safety module of Aave protocol called Umbrella. They're effectively adding trenches via staking A tokens, which are like proof of deposit tokens. When you deposit to Aave, you receive, let's say, A USDC or A USDT. And when you stake those tokens, you basically can cover, I mean, you're being exposed to bad debt risk from Aave. Currently, this is done by staking Aave tokens, and this is kind of an improvement in a sense that no tokens need to be sold when in the event of bad debt, but rather a protocol will just burn A tokens that were previously staked by stakers. And in return, stakers are receiving, of course, boosted yield, which is coming from Aave Treasury itself. And yeah, like vanilla deposits, basically another improvement is that vanilla deposits, like if you just deposit on Aave, get A tokens and do not stake it, you get the same yield basically for less risk because now you are kind of, your risk of covering for the bad debt is lower because the stakers are covering for you. Another good example is a product called Summerfi, which has launched the new protocol with a very simple UX where they aggregate yield vaults and rebalance between those for boosting the APY. And they basically also have like the high risk vaults, of course offering higher yield, and the lower risk vaults. And yeah, so far it has seen like a constant growth. So yeah, that's why I mentioned, maybe, I mean, I want to just draw attention of the importance of timing, especially in DeFi, when you launch a certain type of product. Also, I think it's worth noting that Pendle PT token looping, which we already discussed, probably even last year, I think it's now safe to say that this kind of strategy is sustainable, that it's keeping up due to various factors, including our ability to keep the borrow rate always lower than the yield of the PT tokens, which kind of makes the strategy profitable all the time. Another factor being that one of the protocols tokenizing some kind of yield strategy, like Athena, adding a mechanism to rebalance between the basis trade, like the core business model, and the yield from treasury bills. So yeah, it kind of makes the whole process more sustainable. Then you can also have projects like DeFi Saver, who can build additional features on top to ease the management of those kind of positions, like the automatic rollover to the next maturity, as I mentioned before. And then, yeah, this is actually a stablecoin dashboard we're currently building in Blockanalitica. I mean, it's live, and it's actually something we decided to build because we needed something like this as users of DeFi lending protocols and CDP holders and leverage users. It's called Sphere, and yeah, you can basically find a lot of things there, including the net APYs for leverage positions. Let's say you want to long Ether or Bitcoin. Benchmark rates. These benchmark rates are actually used by Blockanalitica when deciding what should when deciding about the adjustment of the DAI savings rate or Sky savings rate. You can also estimate the unwinding price impact of your CDP. You can find the lowest borrowing rates in DeFi. You can see the supported protocols. You can find lowest liquidation prices, and basically even find some trends if you dig deep. Yeah, I think that should be it. Now, the topic I also wanted to draw attention a bit, and I think this project is actually pretty cool. So, privacy pools. It's a new and non-custodial, non-restricted privacy protocol. You can see it as a Tornado Cash, but with one important addition, an additional feature, and that's ZK proofs for which you can use to prove that you are not part of a certain data set or list. Basically proving that you are not laundering money, that you are not hacker that has stolen funds from some protocol or criminal or similar. Important thing to mention is that this exclusion list, so-called, is not centralized like in Tornado Cash. In other words, there are no hard-coded like compliance rules. So anyone can basically define their own list and then prove that they're not part of it. So let's go through a simple example. Let's say a centralized exchange for some regulatory reason needs its users to prove that they are not like malicious actors, right? So they can define their own exclusion lists based on law enforcement data, sanctions list, and basically require your proof that you're not part of that data set. Now, on one end, I mean, it's obvious this is like a improvement compared to Tornado Cash, but still, criminals can still use it for laundering money, as it's completely permissionless and open source. But yeah, they're kind of less incentivized to do it, right? Because if you want to do something with that money, you would kind of need also to provide a proof of exclusion from a certain list. And yeah, to wrap up, I'm just gonna leave this here. Those are basically some tools you could consider using nowadays while wandering through DeFi. So for transaction submission, consider using private RPCs like Map Blocker and Flashbot RPCs. Of course, simulate first before submitting a transaction. For lending and borrowing, yeah, you can use Sphere to find the best stablecoin rates and net APYs. To minimize liquidation and front-end downtime risk, you can consider focusing on protocols, of course, with the proper risk management and DeFi Saver automation, which is pretty cool. Of course, use multi-sigs, key rotation, and similar. And yeah, I think we'll have enough time for the Q&A session, so feel free also to ask any questions you may have, and maybe even suggest some more tools that you may have, so everyone can hear. Yeah, that will be it. Thank you for listening.